Commission regular meeting to order. And could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Mills, Mr. Negrino, Mr. Cardofellas, and Ms. Corbel had previously indicated to me that they would not be able to attend. Mr. Salepis.
Here.
Mr. Wiley.
Here.
Mr. Waldinger.
Here.
Now we have the minutes in our binders here. Is there any changes to those minutes or any comments? Otherwise, I'd like to hear a motion to accept.
I move to accept the minutes from the meeting.
Second.
And all those in favor, approve? Say yea. Aye.
Bless you.
This is the time we take public comment on non-agenda items. So if anybody has something to speak of that's not on the agenda tonight, please come forward. Hearing no comments, we'll move on to old business.
We didn't approve the minutes from the last. Or do we just do the minutes?
We just did. Yeah, we just did. So we'll move on to old business, and that is the Zahalasky plan of lots. And this is a consideration of an application for preliminary and final subdivision from Canonsburg AO Investors, LLC for the Zahalasky plan of lots located at 265 East McMurray Road. Who's presenting?
That'll be me.
Okay, Jim.
All right. The proposal tonight is simply a revision of existing lot lines. It was submitted in anticipation of the Smith Packard Senior Living Facility land development submission. However, to date, the township has not received any submittal for land development for the facility, and no land development at the property is being considered tonight. As a reminder, this item was first considered by the Planning Commission in April, but was tabled to allow the applicant to address outstanding issues. That primary issue was that the proposed Lot 2B on the previous plan showed no direct access to a public or private street. The plan submitted before you tonight was submitted to address this issue. The property is comprised of 7 lots located south and west of the McNary subdivision. 2 of the lots are larger parcels and comprise the bulk of the property. The remaining 5 are standard lots that appear to have been intended for single-family dwellings along East McMurray Road. The larger parcel to the west has access to East McMurray via a split frontage. The larger parcel to the east has access to East McMurray via a 40-foot access corridor. It is also accessible via Pleasant Avenue to the north and Marion Drive to the east. The majority of the property is vacant and covered in woods, but a single-family dwelling is situated on the eastern parcel. The plan proposes a lot line shift that would transfer 7.94 acres of land from the western parcel to the eastern parcel. The remaining land in the western parcel is designated as Lot 2A, and the newly enlarged eastern parcel is designated as Lot 2B. Additionally, a 10-foot wide strip of land has been transferred from one of the single-family lots to Lot 2B in order to widen the access corridor to the township minimum of 50 feet. And you can see on this display here the property that is being transferred. The upper one is the larger area being transferred from Lot 2A to Lot 2B, and the lower area is that 10-foot strip being added to the access corridor to bring it up to the 50-foot township minimum. As mentioned before, the subdivision has been proposed in anticipation of a land development submittal for the Smith Packard Senior Living Facility. Again, this submittal has not been received and is not being considered tonight. All proposed parcels comply with the dimensional regulations of their appropriate zoning district and the regulations of the subdivision and land development ordinance. While setbacks are shown incorrectly on the single-family lots, this does not materially impact the plan. To adhere to the 90-day time limit, a decision by council must be made by July 10th. Because of this, the Planning Commission must make a recommendation tonight. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the plan subject to Pierce Township Sanitary Authority approval of the plan, that a revised plan showing the accurate setbacks for the single-family lots along East McMurray Road be submitted, and that a revised plan showing a full lot area table, including figures for all existing proposed lots, be added.
An opening question for you, Jim. Could you go back to that one? So We have, the issue was earlier that they had to have access to East McMurray Road.
That's correct.
And adding 10 feet takes care of the 50-foot right-of-way. But my concern is how steep that is. Don't we have regulations as to maximum grade? And obviously, it's not wide enough for a switchback, so...
Zoning only looks at it from a two-dimensional perspective. As long as they have the 50-foot access, it complies with those regulations. There are street design standards, but no streets have been proposed at this time, so that's outside the purview of this request.
Okay, so even though it may not pass muster for a grade later on, we don't consider that?
Not for this purposes tonight.
Okay, thank you. And the three conditions, one of them is a condition that the sanitary authority approve the plan. So before, if we recommend or even don't recommend, either way, the plan right now is a non-development plan because it hasn't been approved for a sewage module. Is that correct? I mean, why would they have to sign off?
They have to review all subdivisions regardless. So it's just that's honestly kind of a holdover from the old version when there wasn't direct access, because we were concerned over not just the provision, the access from the streets. We were worried about the access for utilities. And so this is addressed to a large degree due to the access corridor. That was mainly put in there because I'm not sure the sanitary authority's seen this plan yet, and I haven't received comments from them yet. Typically, we receive comments from them by this point on what is before us, which is why it may not be included, because we've either already hashed them out, we've usually already hashed them out, or have something worked out.
If we recommend approval tonight of the subdivision and the lot line changes, it's really, the sanitary authority has not reviewed it or taken an opinion on it yet.
I mean, their concerns on the last plan had to do more with access, and not to speak for them, but I think that the access would be addressed under this current plan.
So, question for me, this is maybe more just the applicant as opposed to yourself, but we tabled this back in April, right?
Yes.
We gave 60 couple of days to get kind of everything worked out. Getting approval from the sanitary authority seems like a pretty critical step. Why is that not yet done?
Sanitary authority is a separate entity. The township has often given their own approvals conditioned on sanitary authority approval, even after planning commission recommendation and by council after the council. Basically, there's all those signature clauses on there. The plan can't be recorded until the sanitary authority signs their own signature clause anyways.
Right.
It's kind of almost approval by the township is almost independent. Almost.
But it's not, though, because we're being asked to recommend approval of this subject to their approval. So at that point, it's almost like we're superseding our review to their review.
Mark, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, PTSA's concern initially was getting access for basically essentially an easement so that you can run utilities sewer line up to lot 2B, which was landlocked at the time. By creating this new corridor, there's an access down for utilities down to East McMurray, at which time, if there were to be a land development or a future subdivision for the site, they would have to get PTSA approval at that point anyways. That's why we didn't make it a priority to get PTSA approval for this particular version of the plan.
So if that's going to be a condition, though, for our approval, is that scheduled for them to review this before July the 10th? I guess when is that going to happen?
We can certainly make it happen before July 10th.
We send it over to them, and they'll sometimes get back to us that day.
It's reviewed by staff.
There's no board review by them.
And even though, was it the last meeting or the meeting before, we went pretty deep into the weeds about the plan for Lot 2B. So we denied it, if I remember right.
Correct.
We denied the recommendation, and now we're adding 7 acres to it, but yet that plan is still in the queue for council to consider.
This is independent of any development proposal on that lot.
Okay, I'm just trying to get ahead of, I'm sure, I'm kind of get ahead of
But
the
to
comments
answer your
tonight.
question, you are correct. It went to Planning Commission. It was denied, recommended for denial. It'll go to council sometime more than likely in July.
Within the 60-day time frame, is there a meeting?
Yes, it will meet its time frame.
So I guess a follow-up question to that. So there was the rezoning as well of the portion of this. So we're changing the size of the one lot. Are we then going to have a lot that is split zoned, part one and part the other?
2B is split zoned a little bit, but you can see there's a little notch over there. They've actually added that notch to kind of accommodate where the zoning line is.
So
It's not the new
after division 2B,
Right.
how does that break down?
This little triangle here, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I believe this will still be zoned mixed residential. This is zoned low-density residential.
Correct.
However, Pleasant Point obviously came in prior to the rezoning.
All right, that's not really the question. That was
But
more.
yeah, I know, I just wanted to make that clear.
And again, I know I'm beating the same horse, but we denied recommendation of Pleasant Point. Did we not? Okay. You guys have any more questions for the staff?
No, for
Neither of them are working.
Is there anybody from the developer here to speak? Okay, just want to make sure you're here in case we have some questions from the audience. So I'm going to entertain any audience questions or concerns or comments, and whoever on the right side wants to come up first. There might be some place to sign in at the podium, and then we'd like to know your name and where you live. So anybody from the right? Anybody from the middle? Come on up.
My name's Lori Swersler. Just that mixed overlay, is that gonna come up to be zoned as the same other stuff, or that's something that has to, because you were saying this part's still gonna be mixed overlay, and this is single housing?
Yeah.
So is this gonna, get voted to be over here, or no, or how does that work to make it all the same?
At the moment, it's just going to stay the way it is, where you have that dividing line splitting, not really splitting Lot 2B, but you'll have a small portion of Lot 2B in the mixed residential overlay, and the remainder just stays as low-density residential.
And would you state your name, by the way?
It's
for the-
Lori
because we're
Swersler.
recording?
I live on
Oh, okay.
McNary Street.
Thank you, I didn't catch it, thank you.
But if that little triangle's landlocked by the rest of the lot, or, 2B, how could you do something different in that little corner and something else in the remaining portion of the property?
That's a zoning line, which is different than a property line. So in theory, if this property, 2B, were to follow current today's standards, theoretically, they would create a road network within the Lot 2B,
Okay.
develop it mostly as single-family housing, but maybe in that corner, they could fit a couple of townhomes or something small.
Okay.
About how many acres is that little corner-ish?
Looks to be about
2 acres, maybe?
less than 2. I'd say about an acre and a half, maybe.
Pretty small.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else from the middle section? Any comments, questions, concerns? Please come up. Anybody from the left? Okay, not hearing any. Developer, agent, you want to just come up and introduce yourself in case somebody from the board up here has a question for you?
My name's Dante Saletti. I'm with Morris Knowles and Associates, and we were hired by the applicant to put together the subdivision consolidation plan. I actually brought a plan that I thought I marked up pretty well, but Jim's presentation definitely overtakes mine. He did a better job with the color graphics and everything, but I'm happy to ask any questions you might have.
Yeah, and tonight, again, it's more of a lot line shift. You added, taken 7 away from one and added the other, added 10 feet. Is there any other bullet points in tonight's discussion?
I don't think so, other than, Jim mentioned that how we were cutting the top portion of that line there so that way we wouldn't have a little corner that was split zone. So this Lot 2A is all one overlay zone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions, Jonathan? When you peel the layers all the way, it's a rather simple discussion. I know there's bigger topics down the road, but for the lot line shift, it's an improvement, I think. I can't speak for you guys, but for me, it makes the lot more usable as single-family development. I just have concerns about the elevation change from McMurray Road up to the development. It's pretty steep.
But that's not
But that's
being considered
Yeah.
tonight.
No.
You ready?
I have no more questions if you don't. I'd like to entertain an active motion.
I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve the lot line change from lot 2A to 2B, as well as the 10-foot additional property given to that access road or access property be approved.
Would you like to?
And add the three conditions?
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring.
Subject to the, how many conditions?
Three that's listed by staff.
Subject to the conditions listed in staff's memo dated June 7th. Or has it been superseded by your most recent?
Yesterday,
It
probably.
would be the conditions that I have on the screen here.
They haven't changed. Those were
I wasn't
there.
sure if I honestly couldn't remember if I changed them or not.
Okay,
And we'll go-
subject to those three conditions.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend to council the lot line shift, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approves 3-0. Thank you very much. Going on to the next business, we're going into new business, and under that, we have the Courtyards at Valley Brook. This is a consideration of an application for preliminary land development from Mr. Robinson for the Courtyards at Valley Brook Townhouse Development located at 350 Valley Brook Road. And who's presenting?
Mark, take the lead on this.
Okay.
Real quickly, what we have before you, just a quick summary. We're looking at a plan that was submitted approximately 30 days ago. It's for 12 townhomes situated on a 6.77 acre tract of land located along Valley Brook Road, pretty much near the intersection of Broadway Drive and Valley Brook. In terms of when this plan needs to be acted upon by council, we have a deadline of September 6th. But before getting into the plan, I should probably note that there's a number of other plan approvals that have occurred with this site. First and foremost, there was 2 plans approved, a cafe for 1,500 square feet, as well as a medical office building, a separate plan of about 12,000 square feet, 12,900 square feet. Both those were approved in 2019 and 2020, respectively. In addition to that, in 2020, there was a zoning hearing board decision that granted the ability for the developer to both grade and develop into the floodplain, as well as more recently, there have been conceptual plans as well as a plan submitted to the township for a restaurant on a portion of the site, as well as even more recently, a grading permit was approved for the site, and you actually have seen some grading at the site as we speak right now. Now, adjacent to that, there's a parcel called Parcel 2. You'll see it in a moment here when I pull up the plan. But essentially, that is a parcel that adjoins this to the west, and the developer does own or have a 50-year lease to use that property for certain uses. That property is currently owned by the township, though.
Yeah, that, Mr. Robinson gave that parcel to the township,
Right.
but with the,
Yeah, and some of you have been on planning commission, I'm sure,
Right.
who recommend or
that was
recollect all these.
ages ago, it seemed like.
True code.
Right, exactly.
Ages.
So, getting into the plan real quickly, again, some of you are probably familiar with this, but in terms of the existing conditions, this site is a very rectangular site. It has about 1,000 feet of linear frontage on Valley Brook Road. Also has considerable frontage on Arrowhead Trail down here to the south. In yellow here is that Parcel 2 that we were just talking about. It's owned by the township, but is leased by the applicant. A couple other items to note on this plan, or on the existing conditions, is, it's actually probably easier to see here. This space in between the dashed lines, this is the floodplain currently. this is where they got approval from the zoning hearing board to modify the floodplain and do some development within that. In addition, along with the floodplain, obviously that means there's a stream that runs through the site. It's a relatively flat site. We do have some topography issues along the southern boundary here. And I'll also note there is a sanitary easement that runs through the site somewhat along the same path as Brush Run there. And that houses 2 sewer lines, which are currently being upgraded. What you see here are the proposed plans, and I have a couple of slides here on the proposed plans. But again, this is a plan for 12 townhomes. They are to be, or at least proposed to be, owner-occupied. Each of the units will have its own driveway and its own garage that then accesses a private drive. This private drive will then access Valley Brook Road at 2 intersections. There's also a sidewalk proposed as part of this development along the north side of what's called Sanctuary Place. That's the proposed name for the private drive. And there are also some landscape buffers located along Valley Brook between Valley Brook and the development itself. A couple other items to note. There's not a whole lot of grading that's going to happen as related to this development because the grading has already happened to the site. It's only taking up roughly 2 acres out of the 6.77 acres, give or take. All new utilities will be underground, and stormwater is going to be handled by a rain garden located here along Valley Brook Road, as well as below-grade storage underneath Sanctuary Place. At the moment, we're recommending tabling the plan. There's a number of issues that we need to work through. Most of them are technical in nature, but we can see here there's 3 or 4 points that we would like to actually discuss tonight. And maybe if we get some resolution, we could actually give a conditional approval. But these are primary points of discussion for tonight. One being the intersection location. The easternmost road, you can kind of see it here. Yeah, there we go. It is roughly right in here. This is one map. Let's go to this other one. There.
Yeah.
It is actually 90 feet to this intersection here, which doesn't meet our ordinance. I've spoken with the township engineer on this, or the township traffic engineer about this, as well as some other site issues. One of the recommendations we were kind of spitballing today was the ability to possibly make this only a right out. That would then eliminate some of the conflicts that may occur with both Rahway Drive intersection, but also the conflicts that occur internally here where you have traffic coming down Valley Brook Road and potentially turning in, with conflicts of within Sanctuary Place and these different driveways here. That was one of our thoughts. We also had some concerns with some of the internal conflict points here. So one of the thoughts is, well, why couldn't we move this driveway down here since this is leased by the applicant? One of the suggestions we had. As well as then we also talked about sidewalks. That was another big point here. I'm just going to move back to our outstanding issues here. We had 2 recommendations that go along with the sidewalks. One was to take the sidewalks that are along Sanctuary Place on the northern side and consider putting them on the south side, where they would be directly adjacent to the townhomes that they are providing access to. And the other one is to provide access, I guess, further east down Valley Brook towards the development with Mallard Lane there, the next development over, which is basically a similar style development. So those are 2 items we want to talk about with sidewalks. And then lastly, going back to the plan itself, again, we have a couple of what are almost dead-end streets here. Typically, the fire chief as well as the township engineer like to see some type of turnaround, because since we don't allow for private streets, we believe that the developer could make some changes to the plan to actually eliminate these here by making this just simply a turn and then a right turn only intersection here. And if this driveway were moved further west, that would also eliminate that conflict point. And essentially making this just a simple, this road, Sanctuary Place, a simple U shape. It just comes in like this and out with none of those extra little dead end stuff.
For such a short distance, there's only a dozen townhomes being proposed, is it necessary to have two access points?
Yes. I'm going to tell you yes, because that's what our fire chief and our
Just to allow flow
Yes, yeah.
in and out?
And especially, you know, when you come in, not just even the fire chief, but garbage trucks, anything that's coming in, depending on how the route that they choose, you really need to have 2 points out. Otherwise, you're going to have to figure out a way to turn.
But if you're coming down Valley Brook from Hessler's.
From, say, here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to turn left into that first entrance?
No, you'd be able to turn left. Right now, this is a right in, right out.
So there's no access into the plan from that entry point?
From this direction.
Correct.
Yes.
So you have to go past Broadway.
Right.
And then make the left.
Yes, this is the full intersection, full movement or intersection down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull up the plan set. That might make it a little easier.
Is it worth maybe us making our presentation? Mark?
Absolutely. I'd just like to note that obviously the developer's here, and we also have our consultant here who can answer some of our engineering questions.
Let's just do this.
I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint you sent me.
Sure, the PDF, and if you, I'll look over it if you can switch to the next slide, if that's okay. I appreciate it, Mark. Good evening, Mike Wetzel with Victor Wetzel Associates. It's always good to be back in front of Peters Township, and unfortunately, we've been on this site a few times, as pointed out. Also, Tom Robinson is here tonight, and as Mark was mentioning, we're here for the 12-unit townhome development located on this site for Valley Brook Road. And yes, we have been here several times before for the cafe. We were then here for the medical office building, and it's really just with economic times that have happened, especially with COVID. You know, a lot of activity has changed in regard to the market.
So is the
marketplace.
cafe you're not going forward with that? Medical office, not going forward? This is the surviving plan?
And it's zoned for that. Yes. So, and so what we'll do is we'll kind of go over and we'll kind of go into a little bit more detail of some of the plan with that. So with that being said, Valley Brook Road located along the frontage and through here. Originally, Tom had owned all this property in through this section. As it was brought up, Tom had donated this lot number 1 a long time ago, back in 2019, when we did the cafe site. This was where the cafe site is, right in through here, and that property is owned by Peters Township. That's where the existing detention facility is located. And really, the site that we're looking at is this 6.77 acre area right along and through here. With that, we have Brush Creek that flows through the site all the way through here. This is where the existing trail parking that the township put in right over in this location. And then we have Arrowhead Trail along the southern portion of the property area. So the slide that Mark did kind of go through, but we'll go through it more detail. Once again, with Valley Brook Road located along and through here. This is once again the township-owned parcel of about 1.7, a little under 1.7 in size. And then once again, that's the existing detention facility. The rest of the site, if you drive down Valley Brook Road, you've seen that Tom has gone through and done all the site grading. Back in 2021, I think you started doing. We got the grading permit approval to fill the site per the approved medical office building site. So really a lot of that grade is at the grade of where the approved medical office building site was approved today. The double line in through your black line through there is the existing sanitary. There's an existing sanitary line that goes up through here and another sanitary line that goes over along this portion of the site. And once again with Brush Creek located traversing the site along and through here. Now, some of the discussion was talked about trying to get a sidewalk over and through here. This is the Brookview residential development. Brookview is also a single family and duplex plan. That's all private streets. So those streets are not maintained by Peters Township. They're maintained by the Homeowners Association. This will be very similar to what will be done for this 12-unit plan. Is everything will be owned and maintained by the homeowners association, and no participation for maintenance at all from Peters Township, but we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. And once again, with the site being 6.77 acres in the Valley Brook mixed-use corridor, townhomes were permitted within this corridor. And as we talked about, this was the approved plans back in, really, the council, I think, approved it back in the early 2021, where on the township parcel and through here, that's where the dessert shop or the cafe was located. We had parking along through here, large parking lot located on this portion, and this was the medical office building site. The access is really where we have it coming through here today in regard to the site distances that take place within the site, and there was access easements that were taking place with the medical office building. And once again, the townhome area that we're looking at is within the grading area of where the medical office building site and the parking lot took place at that time. So that kind of gives you a little bit of relationship of some of the new members, but where we were from the past. So once again, we look at the detail of the site. The dashed line represents the floodplain location. The yellow hatch represents the floodway location. And you can see from this aerial was this spring of 2024, the grading operations that had taken place within the site, as well as the grading operations that took around the detention facility through that. This is the existing detention facility on the township parcel, and there will not be any improvements that will be taking place in the township parcel with this plan, except for just the little stub connection within that roadway area. But the detention facility will remain with this project, and we're not adding any water to that detention facility. But once again, all the site grading is taking place along and through here. So in regard to the 12-unit townhome plan, once again, this is the 6.77 acre site in through here. We'll have our access. This will be a full access in through here. So you'll be able to come in, come through the plan, or come out. What we have designed, because of what was discussed along and through here, by not being able to align with the road and through this section, that we were doing only a right in, right out at this location. So you'd be able to come through, make the right out, or if you wanted to, you can come in and make the right in. You could not come out through here and make a left, and we'll go over the plan a little bit more detail in this section. And then we have the townhomes located within the site area. The kind of green area represents the open space within the plan that will be left as open space. That'll total 4.9 acres in size, or 73% will be dedicated as open space. Cannot be divided in any other way except for the use for the homeowners association for this plan.
With that much space towards the Mallard Lane development, the adjacent development, couldn't you squeeze a few more townhouses?
You're talking to Tom.
Is it not developable, or?
It's not developable. Mostly.
It's a cliff.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe that's a good point, because I didn't get to mention it in through here. And once again, the dash line represents the flood plain line into there, so we can't get up along and through here. And really, the crossing doesn't work. For the crossing of Brush Creek with the road, it doesn't work. But one of the other concerns about the sidewalk that was mentioned about the connection over to the Brookview residential development over and through here. Once again, we have very steep grades that take place along and through here, and we can't necessarily construct a sidewalk within that area.
Could you construct some type of path, not necessarily a concrete sidewalk, but a path that would be maybe not necessarily at the same grade as Valley Brook, but down closer to the stream?
We'd have to take a look at that, but I believe a lot of the existing contours are relatively steep within that area. But that's something we can take a look at as more of an informal type of trip.
With the cafe proposal years ago, there was a little bridge or some, okay, just as a convenience to the homeowners.
Well, then maybe that's something that we should have included on the plan in lieu of the sidewalk.
So, and that's something we'll continue to talk with staff about.
Right.
Through there. We kind of have the builder for this plan is Scarmazzi Homes. Paul specializes in really active adult development as well as townhomes within the plan. So he's a very well-respected builder within the area. He'll be building these townhomes within the plan. And we are in discussions about talking about re-looking at trying to do the trail crossing in through here. And if that takes place, most likely that would occur over at this location through here. So I know that's one of Tom's main wishes. So, and if that's the case, well, that could be in lieu of the sidewalk. But we'll have continued discussions with staff on that. So we can go back to the. So when we look at the detail of the plan, once again, full intersection along and through here. We are leaving this stub over and through here for future access for the development potential for the township parcel. There could always come that there could be another dessert shop or cafe in through here. There has been also discussions with the township as well as with council with Tom purchasing this piece over and through here and adding actually some more townhomes within this section.
Or pickleball court or something.
So that's why we do leave that stub street in through here. And really, as you move further down, it starts to get a little bit steeper in some of the access. That's why we left that in through this portion of the site. But once again, we know that it's really the goal to add some future townhomes within the plan. There'd be another 11 units that could occur within that section. We did a review with council on that, but at this time we're not. That's kind of still in discussion through here, but that's why we do show the sub-street, and that would come through and there'd be a cul-de-sac within this plan. I think one thing that we could add as a situation, because once again, all these this private drive will all be owned and maintained by the homeowners association, but we could look at a temporary turnaround area that can take place at that portion of the site. But with that said, we have a sidewalk that's connecting over to Valley Brook Road over and through here. We have that going all the way through and all the way back and through this section. And it's a little bit tough to see some of the existing contours in through here, but this is really where it starts to get tough in regard to some of the grading. PennDOT does not like to add sidewalks within their road right away. And it's Valley Brook Road is a very unusual road in regard to a variable width road right away. Once again, the road right away through here, the road through here, there's a big opening through this section between the cartway and the right of way, but up along and through here, you have really the right of way and probably 6 or 7 feet actually from the cartway, and then the road right of way is so far up over on that side, on the high side of Valley Brook Road. But once again, we'll kind of continue to work within the plan. We'll be having visitor parking located along and through here. Our CBU will be located in this section, and really, once again, kind of coming through. And we'll continue to work with staff and whether this is just more of a dedicated right out versus a right in, right out in through here. But we're once again looking at this being a private driveway to serve these 2 units over along and through here.
Would it be possible to remove that stud and just basically have those 2 units access the road on as it curves up towards
Sure.
Valley Brook?
And I think what you're saying is looking through here, make this a curve.
Yeah.
Right in through here and just connect that driveway to
right, or even rotate the units a little bit.
Do a little rotation of the building. So that, and that's something, once again, as we continue to work with staff in regard to the design of that particular portion, we can look at making that just more of a longer little driveway piece. Right. Or once again, really maybe stepping some of the building or rotating the building. So within the plan. So those are some of the ideas that we're looking at. Once again, the kind of yellow area is all the open space within the plan. Parking requirements, really within the plan, you're required 2 parking spaces per unit. Each one of these units will be a 2-car garage within it, so we'll have 4 parking spaces per unit. There is no requirement for visitor parking, but we feel that it's really important to add some visitor parking within the plan in the site.
If I may ask, we're considering perhaps asking the applicant to put a sidewalk on the townhome side of the development instead of the side.
Well, one of the question or comments that we had was, yes, to put the sidewalk along here. It's a little unusual because it's going to bisect those driveways, and you might actually have to shift the townhomes a little bit. But this way, the townhomes, you walk out of your house, you hop on the sidewalk, you walk down to the cluster box. That was just one of the thoughts we had. If you look at, what'd you call it, Brook Meadow next? Brookview. That's the way they did it. Mm-hmm. Now, those units are spaced out a little bit different. The driveways are spaced out a little bit more. So it was just a suggestion as to what the bigger comment that we had with sidewalks was actually along Valley Brook. We were just looking to see if some type of pedestrian movements for the folks in here to be able to get down to what would be eventually maybe the town center here. You know, the having an access to the trail would be a big help. So that's certainly a discussion point for you guys.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we don't have the sidewalk really on this side is just with cars parking within the driveway. You know, we've gone through this with other
and that's
plans.
what I'm leading up to.
Yes.
I personally, and I'm not speaking for these guys, I'd rather leave the sidewalk across. Otherwise, an F-150 with a hitch is
Yes.
going to be over that sidewalk every doggone time. So
That's why we did where we are.
What's the length of the driveway proposed to be?
The closest unit is 25 feet from the back of the curb, so it's 25 foot deep. So, as an example, the buildings are kind of staggered. So, in this particular case, this unit here is 25 feet from the garage to the back of the curb. So, the other versions are going to be closer to 28 feet. To the 25 feet is more than enough for the larger, suburban F-350, but when we start to add that sidewalk, that's really where you start to get into an issue.
And maybe you know, or maybe staff knows, at Brookview, I forgot to look today, I went down the road. Do they have a sidewalk on Valley Brook Road?
They do not on Valley Brook.
Yeah, and I might be the only one on the limb here. I don't really think that a sidewalk is safe along Valley Brook Road. I know they have it down at the ice cream place and in front of Opika's, but when you get up here, traffic's got some movement to it. I'm concerned about safety, and I wouldn't push the sidewalk on Valley Brook Road there.
Correct.
More connected to Brookview, and I would probably prefer a sidewalk on the far side opposite side of the townhomes, because there's just not enough room.
We still wanted to provide a sidewalk, but we thought it was best on the north side of
But I do
our
like it.
access
I do like the idea of maybe trading off and doing a nice connection to the trail.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an asset for the developer. Of course, you'd have to put signs that your visitor parking, private drive, no trail parking, but that's your problem, and that's on you.
And that's very similar to what, even though there is no visitor parking at Brookview, that is really a private bridge crossing into there that the developer at the time, Woody Welsh, put in.
Yeah, or, I don't know, is there a possibility of connecting to that one, or is that not copacetic?
No, once again, really the grades over there makes it too tough. And as Mr. Robinson kind of pointed out, we'll with the redesign in through here or over along through there, we'll look at trying to get a reconnection over to the trail area.
And that little bump out that Mark had a good suggestion of eliminating, is it big enough to make 2 more visitor parking?
Probably not, just because of the way the driveway has to loop along and through there.
Okay.
And, the actual paved area right along through there is right along that edge of what's considered the no pave zone. So we really can't move this up. Plus, we also have a our rain garden located along through there. This is picking up all of the water that's coming in from a couple of the inlets that exist today along Valley Brook Road.
Okay, is there an open space regulation on this property? An open space minimum or
No,
requirement?
there is not.
Okay.
And as the developer noted, there's considerable open space proposed for the
Yeah.
development.
I mean,
The
in
only
a
thing I might-
typical development had open space requirements. A lot of that may not even qualify as open space. But here, you don't have the requirement,
Correct.
so it's a
In
moot
this-
point.
It's this particular zoning district that does not have that open space requirement.
Continue on to the next slide, Mark. So this is our utility plan. Even with both, with the medical office building, we had underground detention under the paving. We will be having an underground detention area very similar to what occurred at the medical office building. This underground will be owned and maintained by the homeowners association within the plan. What we'll be doing is we'll have our inlets, and the blue lines represent improvements to the storm line. We'll come in through here, come in through this section. We'll pick up the water, bringing it back in through this area. The existing inlet along and through here, or inlets and outfall pipe here and here, will go into the rain garden. We'll then do a bypass of the line to the creek through this section, as well as our connection will take place over and through here. And there is, once again, another storm line that comes in through here. We'll be picking it up with a manhole, taking it down to the creek through this. Very similar to what occurred over at the dual cafe medical office building, as well as we have an additional line that occurs in through here. That line will be diverted to the creek over in this section. Once again, we do have the sanitary lines that exist along and through here. We'll be having our sanitary line that will tap in through here, come over in this section, pick up all of these townhomes along and through here. We'll also have a little stub that will pick up these 2 units through this portion of the site. So that's in regard to our utilities, really within the plan. And as I mentioned, and I really need to point this out because it's a lot of discussion that has occurred through staff, as well as our initial review with council, is everything's going to be owned and maintained by the homeowners association. We have notes within the plan that really state that the sanctuary drive will not be ever taken over by the township and by the homeowners association. And once again, we're also doing a townhome plan where the residents don't have to cut the grass, they don't have to mow the lawn, shovel snow, rake leaves. That'll all be done by the homeowners association. So within that plan, even the driveways, individual driveways, and the sidewalk and through here, that'll all be done under a maintenance agreement with the homeowners association in the plan. Go ahead, Mark. So, in regard to the landscaping, once again, we're keeping all the existing trees that take place and through here. We do have a buffer yard requirement along and through here. We received some comments in regard to the buffer yard requirements and have changed a couple of the plants, but we'll be having our rain garden along and through here, and we'll be providing the necessary buffer yards that take place within the plan, as well as street trees within the development overall. So we'll be having a substantial buffer that will take place along through here, very similar to what, Brookview is more of a solid evergreen hedge, where you don't necessarily want to get into a solid evergreen, but we do want to create a nice streetscape along Valley Brook Road.
There are no street lights being installed. It would just be lights like a lamppost from the homeowners?
Sure. And you can go to the next slide. As that leads into your question, this is our lighting plan within the plan. At the CBU area, we will have a post light that will occur in through here that would light up the visitor parking area, our photometrics that won't be bleeding off onto the site. Each unit will have a light at the garage area as well as the front door. So the red dots represent where lighting will be for the individual units within the plan. And this will be our entry monument. We'll just have some uplighting at that location of the plan. There are some of the existing utility poles into there. If I'm right, some of them do have some of the Cobra head poles, don't they, Tom? No. They don't? Okay, I thought I saw remember those. But if that's the case, there is no lighting that takes place along Valley Brook Road. So this would be our lighting plan associated with the plan. So with that said, yes, we are addressing some of staff, Gateway Engineers review comment letters in through here. We'll work out the details within the intersection through this. But we feel that this will be our hopefully final attempt in regard to developing the site. The site is already, ready set. There is just a little bit of fill that needs to be put in so that we can get the grade up for this section. Everything meets all the requirements from the flood elevation. We're well above what was even for the medical office building, and we hope to be able to move forward with the 12-unit townhome design for the Courtyards at Valley Brook Road. Glad to answer any other questions that the board might have, as well as if there's any residents that would like to talk.
Yeah, so I didn't see anything here, and I'm not sure if I just missed it. What is the anticipated impact on traffic on Valley Brook?
Really, we'll be also following up with the final traffic study within, but there won't be any additional impact on traffic. Residential trips are going to be less than what would be done under the medical office building. So there's actually be less trips associated with the plan.
But there's no medical office building there now, right? So it's certainly going to be an impact from the current state.
Oh, yes, correct, from the existing, yes.
That's kind of what I'm interested in.
Yes, but once again, it'll be less than what was approved previously. And that's one of the questions that was brought up by Gateway Engineers and staff, is just to provide we will need a HOP from PennDOT to create this access within the plan.
And the TPD, our traffic engineer, also suggested possibly having a scoping meeting, at least initially with PennDOT, to make sure that they're aware that this is happening,
yes.
So that if they see anything, now would be the time for them to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And will this be subject to the traffic impact fee
Yes.
per unit?
It's a per unit. TPD did cost analysis for us. I don't know if I gave that to you guys or not. But we do have that. I couldn't tell you what the number is off the top of my
I
head.
forget what we're up to now.
Well, sometimes it's $1,700 per unit. For this type of development, they actually do a specific analysis, so it's lower than that number. I don't know what it is specifically off the top of my head.
They've not determined it? Or?
It's been determined. I just know it's lower.
Okay.
I can tell you the upper range. It's less than $1,700.
Is there anybody left in the audience that would like to ask questions or make a comment on this agenda item? Hearing none. Of the 19 concerns that Mark pointed out in his letter, I think the two that we probably should discuss tonight before we decide whether to table this or move on it would be the sidewalks. What do you guys feel about the sidewalks? You heard my opinion, but I don't want mine to be the only opinion.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, David. I think if they're on the same side as the driveways, 25 feet is 25 feet, but the sidewalk probably eats into that. How much?
5 feet, probably.
Right, so you have a longer vehicle, it's going to stick out over the sidewalk, defeating the purpose of the sidewalk, just personally.
If they don't move those units, then yes, the larger vehicles will stick out. They tend to be longer than 20 feet, or they're close to 20 feet, and most people don't park right up against the garage.
Right. So is there consideration to move the units back?
You'd have to ask
I'm sorry. The client was asking me a couple of questions.
That's even important.
So if the sidewalk is put on the same side as the driveways, a longer car will stick out into the sidewalk.
Correct.
Is there consideration to move the units back to make more room for that?
Really, because of where we have the dash line and the floodplain, that becomes difficult to move that and then grade more into the floodplain area. Don't necessarily want to move into the floodplain section within the plan. And as kind of Mr. Robinson mentioned, it's going to be our goal to show the township will have some type of trail connection, whether it comes over and through here to the Arrowhead Trail or over along and through here. Hopefully that really will eliminate, once again, probably even the sidewalk over and through this section.
So let me ask you this question. if the sidewalk is across from the driveways where the rain garden is kind of intended to be, what is the risk there? Does the sidewalk flood a lot because the rain garden is right
Oh,
there?
no. The rain garden is just collecting some of the water. It doesn't go over the embankment through there. That's all kind of contained as a best management practice as a rain garden. It's not a stormwater detention facility. It just kind of goes through there, comes back out. There's no flooding that takes place.
So I guess elevation-wise, is the sidewalk above or below the rain garden?
Oh, it's above.
Above.
Yes.
Above meaning closer to Valley Brook?
Oh, no, it's just, it's like a traditional sidewalk. Sidewalks at the grade of the back of the curb, and then the rain garden slopes down away from the sidewalk. Goes to a low point through here, then back up the Valley Brook Road. So it acts as a stormwater management facility, but it's considered a rain garden.
In this illustration, I'm not sure if that's it, but it shows in pink on the side of the road closest to Valley Brook.
And I'll go through and show you on here. So here's our sidewalk interior. That's high, and then it drops about 2.5 feet for the rain garden. That's the limit of the water that goes into the rain garden.
But the sidewalk doesn't go all the way
I
down to
agree.
the mailbox area?
Oh, no, the sidewalk goes from here, yeah, goes all the way here, all the way over, back up through here.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I would, this sidewalk up on Valley Brook, I think it's too dangerous to have.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
That's what we're saying. I think it's too
Yeah.
much of a risk.
So
Yeah.
what's depicted or what's illustrated here in pink is, and then I guess you have to come across the street to go to the parking spaces as well as the cluster mailbox.
Yes. Yes.
That's,
And tell you the truth, the way it sounds like, we don't want to encourage sidewalks. We'll probably get rid of that connection
Yeah.
right there.
and just have it on the inside.
Yes, correct.
Parallel with the road.
Yes.
And I don't even know if you need it up.
Up to
Who's
through
going to
there.
walk up to Valley Brook Road?
Yes. And we'll continue to work with
Why put a
staff
sidewalk to encourage people?
to go up the Valley Brook.
Cut the sidewalk so they don't go.
Yes.
If they want to walk on the street, they can.
Yes.
At their own risk.
Do you find it a problem if we table this tonight to just get a couple of things clear with staff?
Oh, we know that, I think even staff started the presentation that they recommended to table it. I'm not going to.
And you're okay with
Hey, I tell you the truth, we'll take your recommendation, we'll take it, but.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that we get staff on board with
And we do too.
some of these changes.
Yeah, there's enough loose ends that I
Yes.
think need tied up.
Yeah, I think as a commission, the three of us have agreed that, and stop me if I'm wrong, that requiring them to do a sidewalk on Valley Brook Road is not in our best interest. And that leaving the sidewalk as depicted is just fine, given the
With
fact
some
that the,
minor modifications.
We had an informal meeting up front.
Yeah.
That we're going to remove the little stub right along and through here, and probably remove the stub over along and through here, but we'll continue to work with staff on this.
Sidewalk will end right here and end right here. It won't go up to Valley Brook on either side. They're okay with
The thinking is to what, not have people
that.
walking
Well,
on the Valley Brook?
there's no,
It
it
doesn't go-
serves no purpose.
It doesn't connect anywhere, it doesn't go.
Right,
Yes,
bridge to nowhere.
right.
yes.
Um,
Or to Cambridge,
yeah.
as some of our older remember that.
Well, I think we've accomplished what we were supposed to tonight. Got a couple of things depicted, but I still would be happy to entertain a motion to table if somebody wants
I
to.
do have one question for the applicant.
Okay.
One of the comments from TPD was also the widening of Sanctuary Place to 24 feet as opposed to 20. Is that going to be an issue for you guys?
Well, we just did, why can't I went a little bit blank in regard to the one plan that got approved by Mark Hoskins, his townhome plan. That's under construction right
Camden
now.
Village.
Yeah.
Camden Village, that's it. We're kind of following that standard in regard to the 20-foot private drive through this section. once again, if we widen it to 24, we'll have reduced setbacks in regard to some of the driveway. But we can take a look and see what we can discuss.
One of the things I thought about with the wider road, it does give you the ability, even though you want to discourage it, but if someone does park on the street, you still have the ability to easily get around one of those.
Yeah.
A little bit of sidewalk.
But I know it was one of TPD's comments.
I'd rather have more driveway.
We can work
Yeah,
on that.
I mean, personally, yeah.
Is there a need for the sidewalk at all?
Well, I think that's one thing, especially if we create the trail connection. That was probably one item that we would review with staff, is whether that sidewalk is even needed at all. There's only a few townhomes within the
If
plan.
somebody has a party, people are going to park on the sidewalk.
Yes. And what we can do is take some of that sidewalk area and
Make the
make
road.
it some of the road width
Yeah.
in through there.
Yeah, and that,
And people, if they have to go get their mail, they're going to walk down the street.
Yes.
I'd prefer to see it made as the road width, just from a safety aspect, emergency vehicles and those that have to come in, the more space, the better in terms of,
Right.
yeah, I do too.
So,
All right, well, taking that in consideration, did you get your question answered that you
Yes.
asked about? Okay. So, trying to move this along. You want to make a
Make a
motion?
motion that the Courtyards at Valley Brook Road land development be tabled and, until.
Basically till the next meeting, which I don't know what the date is, but it'll be the
July 10th or 13th or something, 12th.
The
12th.
second Thursday in July.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't.
11th.
second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
thank you for your
Thank you very
time this
much for the
evening.
presentation. Looks great. New business. My apologies to item B, the Cruny Consolidation Plan. It's a consideration of an application for a preliminary and final subdivision from Matthew and Tara Cruny for the Cruny Consolidation Plan located at 242 East Edgewood Drive.
I'll be presenting that.
Okay, Jim?
All right, this plan involves the consolidation of two adjacent lots under singular ownership into one parcel. The lots involved are in the Meadow Ridge development. Lot 122 is a vacant parcel, 0.78 acres in size, located at the intersection of East Edgewood Drive and Merlin Drive. Lot 121 is situated to its east along East Edgewood Drive. It is 0.61 acres in size and is improved with a two-story brick and stone house, deck, and concrete driveway. The applicant is proposing to consolidate these parcels into one 1.38 acre lot in anticipation of the construction of a detached pool house and in-ground swimming pool. Construction of these improvements would cause Lot 121 to be in violation of the maximum allowed lot coverage. This consolidation would allow for the improvements to be constructed as proposed in compliance with the zoning ordinance. I have an image of the proposed plan and a zoning analysis on the table on the screen. Conditions outlined in the staff report have been addressed. As such, we are recommending that the Plan Commission recommend approval of the plan as presented.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything on this.
So just so I understand here, right? We've got the blue square, right?
Yes, that's the lot that actually has the house on it. They
So
also
the adjacent lot next to it, its house number would be 240?
correct.
Okay. So those two would become one.
Yes.
Pretty simple then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anybody from the audience has a comment or question about this?
The owner present.
Yeah, I believe with the applicant is here.
Okay.
Landscape architecture company.
All right. You're representing them.
So what was the reasoning? You said anticipation of what happening?
They're building a detached pool house and a in-ground swimming pool, and these improvements would put them above the maximum allowed lot coverage. They're allowed 15% lot coverage. That would put them at about 19%, I believe. They own that lot next to them. They're going to consolidate those lots to keep them under the maximum allowed lot coverage for the property.
So they own both.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, that's yours as well.
Yeah.
questions? I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the Cruny consolidation plan.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor say yea.
Yay.
And it passes 3-0. Last thing on new business is the Chen Consolidation. It's a consideration of an application for preliminary and final subdivision from Chen for the Chen Consolidation located at 410 Robin Hood Lane and 166 Canterbury Lane.
All right. This plan involves a lot line shift between the parcels located at 410 Robin Hood Lane and 166 Canterbury Lane. First, I want to address the ownership concern that was described in the staff report. As a reminder, the applicant is the sole owner of 410 Robin Hood Lane. Additionally, he is part owner of 166 Canterbury Lane with another individual. The applicant is noted on the plan as agent for this individual. Staff understands that this is because this individual speaks and understands very little English. Per the advice of the Township solicitor, the applicant was required to provide an executed power of attorney. Since the distribution of the staff report, the Township has received this document. It has been reviewed by the Township solicitor, and he found it to be acceptable. As such, staff considers this concern to be addressed. As for the plan itself, the property is located just north of Peters Lake Park. 410 Robin Hood Lane is almost 9 acres in area, and it appears to have been intended for future development. A right-of-way stub off of Robin Hood Lane, which provides access to the property, is evidence of this. To date, the only development has been the construction of a single-family dwelling in 1979 in the northeastern part of the development of the lot. 166 Canterbury Lane is a 1.86-acre flag lot improved with a 2-story brick dwelling on the eastern part of the parcel. This lot adjoins 410 Robin Hood Lane along the entire length of its eastern lot line. A 15-foot easement is shown in the northeastern corner of 410 Robin Hood Lane, running from the right-of-way stub and off the property to the east. Presumably, this easement was recorded for the purposes of sanitary sewers, as Township records indicated that one is located in the vicinity, though none are shown on the plan. An additional sewer line branches off this plan to serve properties to the north. The proposal itself is simply a transfer of 0.84 acres from 166 Canterbury Lane to 410 Robin Hood Lane. This is done by shifting the existing shared lot line to the west about 150 feet. 410 Robin Hood Lane is an existing nonconformity, as the principal structure is situated 7 feet from the side lot line, encroaching on the required 15-foot setback by 8 feet. While the proposed development will not rectify this issue, it will bring the lot closer to zoning compliance. The execution of the plan will decrease the area of building footprint in the setback from 388 square feet to 129 square feet. 166 Canterbury Lane is also an existing nonconformity, as the access corridor for the flag lot is only 40 feet wide, 10 feet less than the 50-foot minimum. As shown on this chart, there are no other existing nonconformities, and none are being created as shown on this chart. Pierce Township Sanitary Authority has reviewed the plan and requested the applicant provide additional easements, the provision of which would require additional surveying work. The applicant subsequently requested a modification from the saldo to not require sanitary authority review. The reasoning is that no new construction is proposed, both existing dwellings are served by public sewers, there is no compensation for the additional easement, and PTSA has an existing sewer on private property without an easement or compensation. PTSA has expressed their opinion that the granting of this modification would set a negative precedent. While council has ultimate authority in the granting of a modification, the Planning Commission may make a recommendation.
And you're recommending that we table this? So
Well, I'm not quite done, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission table consideration of the plan to provide council the opportunity to make a decision regarding the applicant's modification request. Should the Planning Commission decide to make a recommendation that the plan be approved, it is recommended that it be conditioned on the applicant being granted their modification. Should the Planning Commission decide to make a recommendation regarding the modification request, staff recommends that it be for the modification request to be denied. The saldo states, if the council determines that by modification of the requirements, substantial justice may be done and the public interest may be secured, and the granting of such modifications will not be detrimental to other property in the vicinity, council may grant such modifications, provided that same will not have the effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the spirit of these regulations. In relation to this statement, staff feels the granting of the requested modification would be contrary to public interest, potentially detrimental to adjacent property owners, and contrary to the intent and purpose of the spirit of the subdivision and land development control regulations. Staff is also in agreement with PTSA that the granting of the modification may set a negative precedent.
Just a question.
Yes.
If we were to recommend denial of the modification, what would that then mean for the consolidation? Could the consolidation not go through because the modification?
They would need to
permitted?
adhere to all PTSA requirements, so in order to make it go through, they would have to address the 3 comments that PTSA
Has made.
has made.
They have not been addressed yet.
Which have not, yes.
Okay.
And this is still a recommendation only,
Yes, this would,
not a final stop.
yes, council is the ultimate authority in granting modifications, but planning commission can make a recommendation.
So if we were to make a recommendation on the modification, will we then also need to either decide to table to give them time?
Yes, we would still want to see that tabling of the matter.
Is there anybody from the audience that would like to talk about this, whether it's an agent of the developer or the applicant, or anybody wants to comment? Please come forward.
I'm a staff surveyor with the Harshman Group.
Okay.
We are fine with the plan being tabled until this modification request can be heard by council. That's kind of what we were expecting tonight.
Okay. Any other comments from the audience? I don't have any, I can't see how this can go any further without getting a further clarification and modification, unless you have other thoughts.
So do you guys have the mod to weigh in on the modification?
No. I would rather hear council first. Otherwise, it's just a moot point. If we say something, they could hear it or
I would say it should run that course. So we should, make a motion to table it, let it go through council, or does the sanitary authority have to opine on it first and then go to council? Or from here straight to council, their next meeting?
Well, if we table it, it won't go to council yet.
Oh.
So I thought the reason to table it was so that council could take a swing at it.
The plan and the modification are 2 separate issues. The modification needs to be needs to be sorted out before the plan can be. We feel that the modification needs to be sorted out before you make a recommendation on the plan. But
And that's done by council.
and that's done by council.
Yeah.
But you may also
And
make.
they will hear it, whether if we table it, will they still?
They've
hear it?
made the request, so it's going to go to council.
Okay.
All right.
We're basically giving you opportunity to have your say in it before it goes to council.
I make a motion that we table it and wait for further, for it to come back to us after council has reviewed it.
What do you think, Jonathan?
I kind of had in mind to weigh in on the modification, but there's only the 3 of us, so I'll second it. That's fine.
Okay, and all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
So 3 of us have voted to table this.
Okay. And just to be clear, you are not making a recommendation on the modification.
No.
Correct. Okay.
I think that's the end of our new business. Is there any staff update?
I don't have any updates other than with amongst staff as well as with council. We're thinking about having a joint meeting with council and planning commission to start to go over what we want to see in the upcoming comprehensive plan. This will be a project, this is for those of you who've been through it before. It's usually a project that takes 12 to 18 months, sometimes even a little bit longer. But the comp plan kind of sets the stage for how we're going to see development patterns and the rules and regulations around them transpire for the following 10 years after it's adopted. So what we want to do is sit down with council, with planning commission in the room and kind of decide to what extent do we want to modify our current comprehensive plan. You know, initially it was said, well, let's just update it. There's other opinions that it should be completely rewritten, and then there's obviously opinions in between. So we want to sit down and talk with both groups to figure out where it is we want to head. With that information, we can then actually use that to write an RFP to send out to have consultants take a look at the RFP and then begin work on drafting our comprehensive plan.
Would that be a joint workshop that we will have with
Yes,
council?
yes, and we're thinking later in July sometime. So there's no date set yet, we're still,
We're still waiting for council, aren't we? Yeah.
So later in July, and then is there a timeline we wanted to have an RFP put together?
so we've only talked amongst staff, but the goal is to have the RFP out the door by the end of summer. So then this way, say September, roughly early October, we would then be getting responses back and making decisions on which consultants we'd like to interview and or select. And from there, we'd be starting the whole drafting of the comprehensive plan process just before the new year.
Got it. Yeah, sounds good.
That being said, meeting adjourned.